Hello and welcome to my latest HeroQuest video. Today I'm going to be painting the rack. As you can see, I have already washed it in soapy water, allowed it to dry and then primed it using white spray primer. The first colour I'm going to use today is Broadsword Silver from the Speedpaint range. I'm going to use it to paint the shackles for the ankles, the chains around the wheel, and maybe the metal around the edge of the rack. What I have found with the speed paints is that they flow really easily, really smoothly. They do tend to dry a little quickly, but that can be used to our benefit. It's easier to paint coats one after the other, not having to wait too long in between. Next colour up is Hoplite Gold, and I'm going to use it to paint parts of the winding mechanism and parts of the levers that are metal. This is just to add variety to the piece. Be as careful as you can when you're painting these sections, but don't worry about it too much if you make mistakes, because we're going to be fixing those with white paint later in the process. Next colour up is going to be Talos Bronze, and I'm only really using this to add another colour to the rack. You could get away without doing this. You could have used the Broadsword Silver or the Hoplite Gold quite easily, but I'm going to use it to paint the pieces of metal that hold the rack together, the big mechanism to the main body of the rack. You'll see yourself here as I paint it. Now I'm going to use Vallejo's Dead White, and I'm going to use this to fix the mistakes that I've made when painting the metalwork on the rack. The most time consuming part of this process will be painting between the chains on the rack mechanism wheel. Just take your time, try not to hit the chains and try not to hit any of the metalwork. If you do, it's not a big deal, we can touch that up again later with the appropriate metal colour, but just take your time. Now I'm going to use Occultist Cloak, heavily diluted with Speedpaint Medium, and I'm going to use this to paint the main body. The reason for using the medium is so it dilutes the paint and allows it to flow better into the cracks and recesses of the model, giving better shading, making the stonework look more like stone. You could, when this is dry, give the stonework a dry brush with a lighter grey colour, but I don't think it's needed on this particular model with this particular painting style. Back to the dead white paint again, and this is just to fix any areas of the cloth or the arm on the rack that have been hit while painting the body. Now I'm going to use Ruddy Fur, and I'm going to use it to paint the wood on the wheel, on the mechanism of the rack, and on the handles of the mechanism. You'll see anyway as I go. It looks quite effective. All these colours that I'm using are just happen to be colours that I have. Use whatever colours you've got from whatever manufacturer you've got. You don't have to stick with Army Painter. I just happen to have bought the Mega Paint set, so I want to get use out of it. And also I wanted to try some of the contrast type paints. Citadel make a good line of paints, although they're quite hard to fathom. What's contrast and what's base and what's layer and what's foundation. They have that many different lines of paints that they can be quite confusing. I find the Army Painter stuff is all laid out in a set and you know exactly what you're buying. Next up is Pallid Bone, and I'm going to use it to paint we're going to call it cloth on the rack. It could be something more gruesome than cloth, but we'll call it cloth for the sake of PG, and also for the skeletal arm that's been left in a shackle. Poor soul. Now I'm going to use some Agrax Earthshade, and I'm going to use it to dull down all the metalwork. It does provide a very nice effect. And because it's a rack and a torture device, after all, I'm going to add a bit of gore to it. So I'm going to use some PVA glue with some red paint mixed in, and it's going to give a slightly better effect of blood and gore, and I'm going to put it sporadically around the surface. You don't need to mix in PVA glue, but I find that it gives a nicer effect overall. And that's it, the model's painted. After you've given it an hour or two to dry, it's time to pull out your varnish of choice. My varnish that I prefer happens to be the Winsor Newton. Use whatever you've got. Remember, if you're using a spray varnish, to do it in a warm area. Otherwise it can go cloudy while it's drying and completely ruin your piece. I don't recommend spray varnishes for that reason. Of course, results may vary, but that's what I have found over the years with regards to spray. And there we have it, finished article. I hope you like it as much as I do. I'm quite pleased with this and the way it came out. I'm looking forward now to moving on to the next piece for HeroQuest, and then once those are done, it's on to the miniatures. If you've liked this series so far, I would ask you to hit the subscribe button, and I would thank you for your time and thank you for watching my videos. Have a great day.